President Trump says an armed individual was shot by the Secret Service Monday night, prompting an agent to interrupt the president's press briefing to usher him out of the White House briefing room.
Where they're going, it looks like they're just about going to be topping records, hopefully soon. Excuse me?
What's going on, Mr. President? And Skyler Henry joins me now by phone from the White House. Skyler, really scary moments there. I understand you were on the North Lawn when that incident happened. Tell us, what did you see? What did you hear?
Hey, Elaine. So first off, let me just say where I am. I'm in the stairwell in the press office here at the White House because Secret Service police asked all of the media to clear out from that media row there to get inside. We heard what sounded like a pop right before the 6 o'clock or so, 6 p.m. Some of the people who were out here were saying that it was fireworks. Other folks said that it was a gunshot. And then we saw a dozen or so law enforcement officials run towards where the incident was. And as you can imagine, journalists do what journalists do. And so cameras started to go up to see where they were going. And then all we started to hear was shots fired. And then up until that point, we heard that, it was leaning more towards a gunshot. We did hear only one pop. As you saw, the president did address it. The president was briefly removed from the press briefing that was going on at the time. But then he came back to the podium and confirmed what had happened, that a member of the Secret Service did fire off a shot, and that the person who was shot was taken to a nearby hospital here. We aren't sure what their condition is or what provoked the incident altogether, but that is where that stands right now. The press is still kind of standing by to see what's next and what kind of led up to this incident altogether. But a scary 35, 40 minutes here. We had to scramble in. We didn't even have our cameras. I just happened to grab my AirPods to do this. So we aren't sure what's going on, but happy to say that everybody, at least on this end, is okay.
We're happy to hear that. All right, Skyler. Well, let's go ahead and turn now to the president's executive actions. So critics say that they may be unconstitutional. What more can you tell us about that? What kind of legal challenges could the president face?
Well, you have to think about this. Congress, as written in the Constitution, has the power of the purse here. And so when the president puts out these executive orders, it's really unclear not only how he's going to pull this off, but then also if this is something that can legally be done altogether. And so that's the pushback that you're starting to see, not only from Democrats, but even some Republicans as well. Senator Ben Sasse critiqued the president's move, calling it unconstitutional slop earlier. And so now we're starting to see a bunch of backlash in terms of these executive orders and just kind of the demand that it would put on state and local governments as well. I mean, we've already heard from state officials from across the country who've said that they don't know if they can necessarily afford something like this because of the budget pressure that they've already been put under because of the pandemic since March. And so now we're just starting to see a lot of pushback, a lot of people questioning how the president will be able to pull this off. And on the other hand, you're starting to see some Republicans there, applauding the president for his effort to try to get this thing moving forward after weeks of stalled negotiation talks on the next coronavirus relief bill. But I think there's a little bit of skepticism. The administration has already said that they are well aware of the legal challenges that they will have to face to pull this off. It's just a matter of seeing just how they'll be able to do it and how long it'll take. I mean, in actuality, you have to think about this too, Elaine. Say the president does pull this off in some measure, shape, or form, it's going to take states a long time to get these sorts of things together. And so we're talking about months here before an American sees a dollar of this effort from the president here. So it's still a lot of gray area as to how he's going to pull this off.
So, Skyler, given all of that, how likely are we to see lawmakers resume negotiations for a coronavirus relief bill on Capitol Hill?
Well, that's the funny thing. I think everyone wants to see negotiations, even the president. just because of not only the legal challenges that his executive orders and memorandum would require, but also just the fact of the conversation of federal funding versus state and local funding, and just how cash-strapped, I said earlier, some of these states are in terms of dealing with this effort here. And so we did hear from Speaker Pelosi. She said that she is obviously willing to get back to the negotiating table. The White House is back, or members of the White House are trying to get back to the negotiating table. And so I think it's just trying to get past that point of disappointment that they were at towards the end of the week last week, where they just couldn't really decide on that budget. You remember the Republicans were coming in at that $1 trillion mark for this next coronavirus relief bill, while the Democrats had just north of $3 trillion. And so now Democrats were willing to cut $1 trillion if they had the Republicans go up $1 trillion. And so there's just this back and forth as to just how much money is going to be used here, particularly, as I mentioned before, to go to state and local governments altogether.
Meantime, Skyler, the president says that he will deliver his nomination speech from either the White House, as he's previously said, or his newest option, Gettysburg. Why Gettysburg, Skyler, and could we expect this location to generate any kind of pushback?
Well, based off of everything that we've been seeing and hearing, this is an opportunity, or the people on the president's campaign staff see this as a potential opportunity to kind of unify the country in some way. The last time the president spoke at Gettysburg was right before he was elected in 2016 in October, and so there's a moment there. But as we've heard time and time again, the president didn't run from the idea of the fact that, he could very well do this at the White House. He could do it somewhere else in D.C. if they can't find another venue. Now, we did hear from the park services over at Gettysburg, and they've all said that they haven't necessarily received any sort of notification from the campaign as to just how they were going to pull this off, because there was so short notice. But it remains to be seen just if this is going to happen, what the logistical concerns of this will be, and if the park would be ready for it altogether.
All right, we'll continue to watch that. Shifting gears, Skyler, on Monday, the president said Portland, Oregon should bring in the National Guard. Now, the tweet follows violent clashes there over the weekend. How is the administration defending this position?
So, this is obviously something that is stemming from, weeks, if not months-long conversations about the president sending in federal law enforcement into Portland. Initially, the conversation was originally about protecting that federal courthouse, but then we started to see videos of people purportedly being removed from the streets and not really sure who these law enforcement agents are. And so I think that's where you're starting to see a lot of the backlash from the protesters in that area. We did hear from White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany a few weeks ago, who said that when it comes to federal property, it is the president's position, and he has that authority to protect said property. But Oregon's governor did strike a deal with federal authorities, and they went ahead and sent state troopers to the courthouse with federal agents on standby all around. And so that is kind of where that stands right now. So the president, he tweeted earlier, he said he wants to send in the National Guard, and so that is just kind of where everything stands right now. But I think there's really just a conversation of whether local and state officials want to have this federal presence in their areas, and if they're worried if that will provoke more riots, more incidents, and more violent clashes with law enforcement out there, Elaine.
All right, Skyler Henry coming to us tonight from a stairwell in the press area of the West Wing of the White House. Skyler, really glad you're okay. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.